In today's show, I'm going to show you how one of the investors that we're working with took a duplex and is now going to be building 51 units on that site. The site is a 9,000 square foot lot, only in South LA through the ED1 program. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be showing you that if you own a 4-unit building and you have the space, you could build 4 ADUs. If you have an 8-unit building and you have the space, you could build 8 ADUs. That's accessory dwelling units. So tune in to today's show when we interview Andrew Slocum, and let's learn from him and what he has to say. Hey everyone, Juan Huizar here, and I'm pleased to have and welcome Andrew Slocum, who's a housing advocate and a developer. He's an investor, and what I like about Andrew is that he not only talks the talk, he walks the walk. And so we're going to dive in today on what are the best ways that multifamily owners, housing providers, what are the best ways to make money? And the reason why I have Andrew in here is that Andrew's going to be talking about ADUs, developments, in Long Beach, South LA. He's going to be talking about his projects, and we get to learn from Andrew, someone who's actually doing it. How is he making money? How are his clients making money so that you could be a better investor? So Andrew, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so let's go over right now. When people buy apartment buildings, in the past, it was, hey, I'm buying an apartment building because I want to do value add.
Sure.
And that meant that you were going to make the property better, raises income. And when you raise the income, you raise the value of the property. That's like a very basic level. That's what that means. Andrew, you are out there working on 100+ projects with housing providers, multifamily owners. What are they doing to make money? What are you doing to try to create wealth or equity in your assets? Like, what are the top ways that you could tell us about?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, before, the only path to ownership and to create value was just the value add strategy. And what we have now is a value add with another value add component on it. And that's the ability to add more units, whether it's conversion of space or new construction from detached ADUs. And that is the new path that I see, especially in California, because these are state laws that we're using that aren't just in Long Beach or just in South LA. This is all across California that you can use this strategy.
Andrew, so when they first passed the ADU law, it was only if you had a single family home, you could build an accessory dwelling unit. That was in the beginning. Every year, it seemed to me like they were loosening up the rules, and now you could build more than one. Because you focus in on multifamily, and maybe walk us through, I mean, sometimes people think like, hey, I have an 8-unit building, I could only build one, right? What's the new rule? Where are we at today? You know, we're towards the end of August in 2025. What are you seeing? What is being allowed by a lot of the cities? Like, and let's just use like an 8-unit as an example. It's got parking in the back. What are they allowing for something like that to have in terms of ADUs? Because it's no longer one.
No.
Okay.
And there is that misconception, like ADUs, it's adding a unit in the back to your single family home for your grandma, a granny flat. And that has been not really the same since 2020. And as you mentioned, like, the rules keep changing. Every year they get stronger. So between 2020 and 2024, it was you could add 2 detached ADUs to a back of any multifamily building, which was like a duplex or more. As of 2025, you can add up to 8 units of detached accessory dwelling units, as long as you don't exceed the number of units. So if you have a duplex, you can add 2. If you have a 4-unit building, you can add 4. If you have the 8-unit building, like in this scenario, you can add 8. That's where it stops. So if you have a 10-unit building, it's 8. That's the cap. But you also can convert space that is unusable in the existing building as well at 25%. So if you had an 8-unit building that, say, had tuck under parking or attached garages, 8 times 25% is 2 more, plus you have the 8. So in this like ideal situation that is rare, you could turn an 8-unit building into an 18-unit building.
Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so that's a lot, and that's good. So this is if you're an owner and you're looking at your building, the market has been sluggish in multifamily. I mean, it's been tough. Andrew owns several buildings throughout Long Beach and other parts. We've been able to work together on deals, had some success. It was the highest priced fourplex in North Long Beach that we were successfully able to work together, get that one sold. And so the market is sluggish. And so when you're an owner, you got to be thinking, okay, I'm either going to list the property because for one reason or the other, I'm kind of fed up with all the rules and I can't keep up anymore. Or can I add value before I sell it?
Yes.
Or do I just let someone else do the work? But so there's different options and there's no right way depending on who you are. But for the people who believe in building an ADUs, because this is a question that I'll get from a lot of clients, is it worth building an ADU? How do you answer that?
I have yet to see a situation where it doesn't make sense for multifamily buildings to add an ADU. When you're talking about your per unit basis and what you're building them for, it is always much lower a basis to build a new unit than what the value of it is. Whether or not the headache of construction is for you, if you're built for this or not, I think that's a question that you should ask yourself.
Yeah.
But I think even if you aren't looking to do it, you should understand if your property has this potential when you're talking about selling it. Because there is an upside to people who are using ADUs as what they look for. So there is multiple groups, and now that number is 8 units, it's attracted private equity and larger capital groups that when it was 2 units, they weren't excited about 2 units. Now adding 8 units to an 8-unit building, you're doubling the unit count. That's very exciting to people. And so if you aren't looking at this to your buildings, even if you aren't going to do the work, I think you're missing out on what the potential for that is.
Andrew, when you talk about a per unit cost, can you give us an example? Like if someone comes to you and says, hey, ballpark, what's it going to cost? Like I own a fourplex, I hear you, it turns out that I do have the space for 4 more units. What are you telling them it's going to cost per unit? I mean, I could tell you what I think we could sell the units for, but what's the cost that you're seeing? And I know it could change, but just more or less.
I mean, it's obviously the hardest thing to in stone say, but I would say like between $125,000 to $200,000 based on the size. So right now I'm building 4 detached ADUs as 2 duplexes, and those are 800 square feet, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and they're roughly around $190,000 a unit. And you can't buy $190,000 a unit in these places where they are. And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying like the basis of what you're paying for and what you get out of it. There is that delta between what it's worth and what you're creating these units for.
I think if you're an owner and you're thinking about selling and you don't know the possibilities of what you currently have, and let's just say you do have a large lot, or let's just say you do have parking in the back, Andrew, how would you advise them? Like, what's the best way? Can they, because I think, because you're saying, hey, there's larger investors now chasing these types of properties, so long as we have the opportunity. Now, we know that there's apartment buildings where they're maxed out. There is nothing that could be built.
Yep.
But what can someone do to say, you know what, I don't want to leave money on the table? Yeah. How many ADUs would the city like? Is there a way to say, I don't want to build them, I don't want to sign up for the plans, but can I find this out? Does that exist? Can they call you? Is that something that's a service maybe?
Yeah, I mean, they can, but I think really the rules are so simple. Like is there open space? And the setback, meaning from like the property line to where this new building is 4 feet. And then let's say on average, you need a 6-foot separation from the existing building to the new building. So with those 2 numbers, you can go to your building and take a look and say, is there space there with a 6-foot separation and 4 feet on the rear and the side? Is there space there? You don't even need me to say that. You can figure at least that part. And that's where you can say, oh, I do have this opportunity. Then once you realize that, then you can go and figure out in more detail, like, oh, I can add 5 or 6 450 square foot units and really dive into it. But when you have a building that's fully maxed out, there's no anything but units and staircase and hallways, like this isn't for that.
Right. You could certainly reach out to us here at Sage Real Estate and say, hey, this is the site that I have. Or one could actually call the city, right? Someone could call the city and say, can call the planning department is where I would start and say, I have this property, I want to build some ADUs, I have this space. Now, here's what I've learned, Andrew, is that you could call the city 5 different times, 5 different days, and you're going to get 5 different answers.
For sure. Or no answer.
Or no answer, or the answer is no.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so don't give up by calling once. I would say call several times, but like if you're someone like no one wants to leave money on the table.
Right.
And I think that if we market a property and if you hire the wrong broker who says, oh yeah, someone could build an ADU or 2 in the back and it's 8 units, that broker doesn't know the potential of the 8 units plus the 25% that Andrew just mentioned. And all of a sudden, the other side representing the buyer does know maybe they're paying you your price, you think you're winning, but you're probably not maximizing on what you should have because you didn't know. And not everyone is going to know this.
And I'll add, like, I don't really care what your philosophical feeling is on parking or things like that. The buyer gets to decide that. So whether or not you don't like that you get rid of parking, well, there are buyers that are buying and don't really care about that as much as you are. So by focusing too much on what you think it should be, I think you are leaving that option for people who think differently.
I giggle because sometimes people would say, yeah, but if I get rid of these 4 parking spaces, I rent each one out for $100. I'm like, that's $400.
Yeah, what's your unit going to be?
How much do you think you're going to get for 1 unit, let alone 4 if you have the potential? And so I just think that there's a lot of income that people are, and the other misconception is people think if I eliminate parking, my tenants are going to leave.
Yeah, and it's not. And in my experience, most of the garages or parking isn't even used for cars. It's mainly storage. And of all the buildings I've converted, the garages or parking units, I haven't had that problem. In fact, some of them I have lines out the door to lease them up. You know, there is, wherever you are, you may have to do a reduction of services based on like the housing department if you take something away from someone. But that number is still so much lower than what you get when you're saying like a parking spot's $100. A unit isn't, it's thousands.
Yeah.
So it's that delta between it almost always in my experience makes sense.
Got it. Andrew, you've successfully purchased different types of properties, but the ones that I'm familiar with, you've bought like a duplex, you built 2 more ADUs, you've bought different size properties and you're building ADUs. Can you kind of walk us through maybe some simple math on like, hey, this is what we're paying for these types of properties. This is what we're selling them for. Just so that we get it, so our viewers get an example of like why you're doing it and more importantly, are you making money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I thought about when we were going to talk about this is that I do have a building that was a duplex where I added 2 units. And I think if I went back again, I would do it differently.
Okay.
I think I would have just added the 1 unit instead of the 2.
Okay.
When we're talking about under that 4 unit delta, where you're still in like a residential loan, we have found out that the FHA loan guidelines don't allow for 2 units, and we really restricted our buyer pool for that.
Okay. So what Andrew's saying is he had a duplex, he added 2 more. And adding those 2 more created a financing problem. So typically when you're under 4 units, I tell people you have the biggest pool of buyers. Yeah. But in this case, those additional 2 created financing issues. In fact, I have a listing right now. It's 2 units in the front, 2 units in the back.
Is it mine?
No, it's not yours.
Oh, okay.
It's not yours. We sold the one I'm thinking of, but there's one that I have on 6th Street that I don't think you built. And it's creating a problem. And I think you're right. If it was 1 unit,
yeah,
it changes it.
Yeah. And a larger unit that maybe rented more, I think I would probably have a little bit less value on the total, but I would be able to exit. Where right now I have no interest at all.
Yeah. So like I was saying, interest rates are still high.
Yeah.
Everyone's waiting and reading everything out there. And some things just looks positive, like interest rates could be dropping. I mean, I know everyone that works in real estate is like praying for this to happen. Every owner out there that has their property on their market, on the market keeps saying, well, if interest rates drop, then my property will sell. Yeah. But this is, and that's kind of a tough thing to say because then you still have all this inventory out there. So like, is all of it going to be attractive? Are there that many buyers out there? Right. Or I think we're still going to be competing, but I know that that's kind of like the Hail Mary that everyone's waiting for is interest rates to drop. There are buyers out there. I think that it's still a buyer's market and they're able to negotiate price and terms on the prices that they are on the units that they want. Let's get into some of the larger development stuff that you're primarily seeing, mostly South LA.
Yeah.
What are the biggest people? What are you guys doing? I know currently you as a developer are working on 51 units there. What was it before? Tell us kind of like what happened specifically in South LA where you're seeing tons of building going on right now.
Yeah.
More so there than any other city that I've worked in.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a City of LA program that builds upon state law. And so oftentimes the old school developer would go to planning and they would say, hey, what do you guys want to see here? And they have a conversation with their friend John, who they've worked with forever. That's the old school developer. The new developer now knows this stack of different state laws or city programs for density bonuses and rules that you don't always know, what you can build there, or there's options. And so the City of LA, a city that has to build something like 480,000 units, and they've only done about 15% of that when they're more than halfway there, they have a problem. They knew they needed to come up with something. And a part of those number of units, there's a regional housing needs allocation or arena saying this many of these units need to be low income, these need to be moderate income, and these can just be market rate. So the City of LA came up with this program called Executive Directive 1, which built on some of these state laws that allow for basically unlimited density within the constraints of the zoning. And then you can do incentives and waivers to change your development standards, which would be like your height, your floor area ratio. So if we take this South LA project that you're talking about, it was a vacant, dilapidated 2-on-a-lot duplex.
Okay.
Right? And, and on a corner lot in an interior.
How big's the lot?
It's around 9,000 square feet.
So it's a good size lot for there, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, but there's people with 7,500 square feet. I mean, it's the dimensions of the building that you have that doesn't completely change it. The zoning here didn't allow for more than 2 units. But we've had found that in every city has a general plan land use, which is something additional to zoning that says you can do this many units here. And we looked at that and found that this qualifies for this Executive Directive 1, which streamlines 100% affordable projects, makes them quicker, and then builds on those state laws to where you can almost build anything that you want in terms of height or unit count within these constraints.
So you went from a duplex property that had duplex zoning.
Yep.
That was dilapidated. So I could only imagine how cheap you bought it.
Yeah.
And right now you're going to be building, or you are building 51 units.
Yeah. I mean, we're about to sign our construction loan.
Okay.
In the next few, like maybe a week or 2 from now, and we'll break ground on a 5-story, 51 unit, 100% affordable housing project.
That is huge.
And another thing is, many times people think of affordable, they think of tax credits and having to do all this crazy paper. This is privately funded, meaning it's my money and investors' money, and a construction loan, very much how we do typical projects of any kind.
For some of our clients, some of our clients, savvy investors, and they're saying 51 units, bring it on, I could do that. Or in fact, I want to learn more about this ED1 program in Los Angeles. What's the game plan for after, I guess, what's your exit plan? Okay, You're going to build 51 units, affordable. Does that, when you say affordable, does that mean that you have to keep the rental values under a certain requirement? Is that what that means?
It is, and affordable has a lot of different definitions. But for us, affordable means that there is a deed restriction saying that we can only rent it to this income level at this set rent price. And that means that's affordable. It's deed restricted, and it's not just whatever the market determines. So the whole building is set on this deed restriction for an AMI, area median income, of what we can rent them for.
Going back to the exit plan,
right?
You build 51 units. I mean, are we sitting on this? Are we refinancing it? Is this a buy?
We're not flipping it.
You're not flipping
We're not flipping it.
Okay.
That is a bad strategy. I don't recommend it. And there's a lot of people that are getting hurt from thinking that was the case.
Yeah. So the goal is to build it and then refinance, pay off the construction loans.
That's correct.
And
We're looking at a 5-year look after the building has been stabilized to say, what does the market look like in 5 years, with like a 10-year timeline to say we're going to sell it.
Got it. So probably the exit plan is a 10-year timeline to make a decision. But the goal is not to build it quickly, build it cheap, because we're going to sell it to somebody else.
Someone, it's their problem.
It's their problem. Yeah. And so that's not the case with you guys.
No.
When you're looking at 51 units, what's the property worth when you're done with it? Not that you're going to sell it, but what are you thinking it's going to be worth?
Yeah, I mean, and there is a substantial return.
Yeah.
Even at the 5-year mark, and then 10-year mark is even better at the 5-year, but we have to see what the market looks like compared to any other development project that we're looking at, even just regular market rate.
Yeah.
To get into these exact specifics, I mean, there is close to a high 7% yield to triggering like almost an 8% yield of what we'll be returning versus our costs.
When you're saying that for the people that are losing because they look for a quick flip, why is it, just maybe make some comments on why is it that maybe they've made an error in that stuff? I mean, so Andrew is big on X, so Twitter, and so he's out there posting a lot, but from all the social media platforms, I mean, outside of YouTube, which is a great long form educational content, so I appreciate our viewers, X to me is such a great place. Like, I spend more time on X learning from people like Andrew and people who are out there saying, I just built this, here's the list of all my cost, and this is how long it took me, and this is what I learned. It's really impressive. It's really impressive, like how much value people are putting out there, and they're not even putting it out there like, now buy this. They're simply saying, this is what we did.
Yeah.
And so I've been seeing that some people are getting their butt kicks.
Absolutely.
And what is it that went wrong?
I would say that it was extremely enticing that we can get
early on was enticing.
Now enticing that I can get a big project of, it doesn't matter if it was 50 units or 1,000 units entitled and all ready to build in 9 months. It's definitely achievable. That's very exciting. It used to be 2-3 years, and that wasn't the case for this because it was expedited and streamlined. But I think what many people didn't think about is, first, can I get the financing for it if I'm going to build it, right? So, a 200 unit project could be $50 million. Can you sign on the debt for $50 million? Can you sign the personal guarantee that they take everything when you mess up? Do you have that liquidity? Do you know people that you can get the equity from for that 30%? If you get a 70% LTC loan, do you have the 30%? Do you even know, people with this type of liquidity?
Yeah.
I think many people didn't even think about that.
Right.
What they thought is I'm going to get this entitled, and there's going to be a bunch of people that want to pay for my my box. That I stuffed as many units in here as possible and didn't even think about, was it constructible at the right price? Is anybody going to want to live here? And there was this excitement of like, let's get whatever approved as fast as possible. And then all these people are going to want to just take it from me and buy it. And to me, I'm like, if it's that easy, why would someone want to buy your plans when we can do ours?
Right. And
find the right property and build it the way we want it to. So there was this exit idea that we're just going to flip this paper to someone and they're going to pay a lot. And some of the first comps were actually pretty solid. Okay. And there were people who did well on that.
Okay.
And that was people that wanted to get in this space and they wanted to just build something and see. But there was very few that really happened, and it started to turn into a race to the bottom. Is it even, sometimes it's worth less than what you paid for it to even get the plans ready, because you just, like, what you designed wasn't good, the site wasn't good, just all the things that we think of with development, like that, some reason that went out the window because it was faster, like none of that mattered anymore.
It's interesting. Typically when someone buys a site and they get it entitled, we kind of know like that's, someone will buy it because you've done the heavy lifting.
Right.
But what you're saying is the heavy lifting, that time frame was only 9 months, so someone else could just go do it on their own. And why would they buy your property?
Right.
And so what is happening to those investors right now who put themselves in that situation? Either they started building it and it's no longer what they thought it was going to be worth, or maybe they got it entitled and now they're stuck with it. No one wants to buy this entitled asset from them. Like, what what are they doing? I mean, I'm sure you're talking to them, or they're calling you saying, Andrew, buy it from me.
Yeah, I mean, I probably looked at everybody's plans and passed on them.
Okay.
I think the first option, there's very few that are building it and then they're worried about it. Because if you get to that point, it makes sense and you're going to make it to that point. What your exit looks like is a crystal ball, because there isn't really a market for the end buyers.
Yeah.
Like, people buy apartment buildings, that's fine. But is there a market for 100% affordable buyers?
Yeah.
And that really, because this is a new housing product, that destiny isn't fully developed yet. That's why we do that longer time frame to have it. And then the people who are wanting to sell it entitled, they're having to compete against all the other people that are in that same situation. They're either, putting it for sale or just like trying to see if anyone wants it. Or the second is they're looking for other opportunities, whether it's new state laws or in city of LA, there's the citywide housing incentive program, CHIP. So they're looking at these new things to say, okay, can we go to the new thing and will that be better?
And will that be better? Got it. So kind of on a smaller scale, last year, someone contacted me and said, hey, I have a duplex, actually 2 homes on a lot, South LA. I have the plans ready to be issued. They call them RTI. So this person went through all the work. Now, I think this was before ED1. And so the deal got better. But so he got a 5-unit building approved for his site. It was originally a duplex. I mean, you got 51 units on the site. Okay, he only got 5. And we thought, okay, yeah, someone's going to want to buy this. They'll do cash for keys with the existing tenants, and they're going to build it. We couldn't sell it. 6 months later, the problem was they weren't able to have the right conversations with the existing tenants to believe that they would ever leave, because they may never leave. And no one. So we ended up selling it to an individual who was going to keep it a duplex. He said, "Thanks for the blueprints." He threw them in the trash. He's like, "I'm not going to build 5 units."
Yeah, no.
It wasn't. So our client went through this efforts of. During that time, it took longer than 9 months, because this was before that law had changed. So years of getting to that point. He thought he had a little bit of profit there for him. Turns out someone didn't even care about the plans. Yeah. And that's on a small scale. I mean, there's other people that are building, entitled 100 plus units, and nothing, you spent all this money, they call it soft cost, and nothing's going to come of it.
My advice is, even if you may want to exit before you build it, always design and think like you're going all the way to the end, because the person who may buy that is going to take it to the end. So don't think you're going to design something that isn't go to the end because you don't think that's the path. Yeah. Everything you buy and you design, think all the way to the finish line, because it may have to be you that does it. Right. And if it doesn't work for you, why is it going to work for me?
No, you're right. Andrew, so one thing I learned about you, and it was interesting because I didn't know this, we worked together. I didn't realize how involved you were in housing advocacy.
Yep.
I didn't realize you're out there trying to get laws passed. Why don't you tell us, kind of highlighting what it is you're working on, and like, where's that passion come from?
Yeah. I was, activated when there was a state bill that I looked, because every year, something like January or February, the new bills for the year get released, and I looked at all of them, and I found one that I thought was really exciting. And this was when I was first getting into learning about state laws and how it affects, and it was the ability to convert vacant retail into housing. And there's places everywhere that it just can't lease, or it was required to be mixed use, and it didn't make sense. And that bill, as it was going through the process, just disappeared. And I told myself, like, I can't not be involved in this anymore. Like, if my destiny and what I want to do is on this, I can't just wait for somebody else, whoever they are, or nobody. And that was the reason why it went away, because no one thought it was important, because no one was showing up or talking about it. So I said, there's no more. I want to be involved in this process.
So I think, I'm sure some of our viewers can relate. So what, you had this calling or this urge to do something. What was your next step? What did you do?
Yeah, so I joined groups. I joined a federal group, a state level group, and then a local group. So there's groups like Abundant Housing, California YIMBY, YIMBY Los Angeles. And there's these groups that propose legislation to fix problems, and then they go with an assembly member or senator to run a bill.
Okay.
And so that was like the path of like, join these groups and understand what because they have a package every year on what they're doing, And you can sign up for, like, California YIMBY has a lobby day. And a group of people, hundreds of people, go to Sacramento and talk to their legislator about whatever these bills are. And sometimes they're not even real estate professionals. They're just people that want housing.
Yeah.
And they show up and they get to talk to their assembly member or their senator and say, look, I live in X and X place and it's not affordable. My kids can't afford to live here. There's this passion behind it.
Right.
And they get to talk about why it's important, because there is two sides. There's people who also want no change anywhere, and the life I live should always be there. I made it. I bought my house with a low tax basis, and like, it sucks for you guys, you know?
Right. Okay.
And there's the opposite side that's thinking of the future. And so you have to balance out those voices so that people who are voting on this, meaning assembly members, senators, hear from both sides. They're not just hearing from one side.
So were you able to revitalize the convert the retail into housing, or did you introduce something new?
We did in a slight way. What we did is we did it by definition.
Okay.
So instead of needing it to be commercial, because the reason why they didn't want that is because they didn't want to turn Main Street into like a residential street,
Got it.
like losing that Main Street feel. But what we did is we defined it as non-livable space, meaning, which is defined as like, you know, a kitchen, a bathroom, like a unit can be converted. So we found a way that did what we wanted, but also like wasn't as direct.
But if it's non-livable space, someone's going to say, hey, but then who do you expect to occupy the space?
So yeah, non-livable space can now be converted into ADUs.
Oh, got it. So
we didn't call it commercial because that word was the
threw people
off. Politics,
yeah.
Right? It's all politics and what the negotiation and what could sell. But the selling point, no one was scared of non-livable space being converted. They were worried about Main Street. So it's understanding what the resistance and the hesitance is and still getting to that objective.
What are you working on right now at that level that you're trying to, and it could, I mean, are you working on multiple things, or there's one, like this is the one that I think is the most important?
There's multiple ones.
Got it, okay.
The biggest one right now is SB 79.
Okay.
Which would allow any property within a half mile of a high quality transit, meaning light rail or a rapid bus. So not just like your regular bus station. This is like real infrastructure we spent millions or billions of dollars to build that we can allow for denser housing up to 7 or 8 stories.
And that's different from the others. That's different from ED1. That's different than all that stuff.
This is statewide.
Okay. Oh, this is statewide. So this would this be, you know, so ED1 was a way for it to be expedited. What you're proposing, would that also be expedited?
It would be expedited in the way that it is required by state law. So local governments can't just say, no, I don't want to do this. State law has said, look, we built these train spots. We have a housing crisis. Like, if you're going to build housing, and wouldn't you want to build it next to transit? Like, where are we going to put it? We really have to think, we need housing. That's not a question.
Right.
Where do we put it? And what this bill does is it gives us a location that makes sense, because you want denser housing. People are worried about traffic. They're worried about people. Build it next to train stations, right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot there. And look, I get it. Single family homes are amazing. And I grew up in one. And we're not saying if you have one, it's illegal. We're just saying you have the option now, if you're near a transit line, to build something where people that live there would go use it. And this is really one of the biggest fights that we have right now.
Interesting.
Is this bill. That's one of the ones that we're talking about a lot. There's also third-party permitting. So if a city can't review your plans in a right amount of time, that you can hire someone to review them. Same thing with inspections. Some cities just, they don't have enough staff, and it's not even necessarily the city's fault. You can't just hire and fire government people. So and applications aren't just like straight. So one day there could be one application, next week there could be 100. But you can't just hire and fire people on the demand. Government doesn't work that way.
Right.
So the idea is to allow for the private industry, third parties that are just as qualified, the same people really, to review these, because then they can be on demand and go.
And because they're not employed, it's probably easier to let them go.
Absolutely.
It's easier to let them go, and they could bring them in as they need them.
Absolutely.
They could expedite building, which, guess what? The state is wanting them to build. So a lot of this stuff is adding up. Andrew, let's talk about, well, there are a couple different things that I could go with you. Construction cost, and I see you posting things on, listen, we had some bad fires recently.
Yeah.
Talk to us about, I mean, you're doing some stuff in Altadena.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything in the Palisades right now?
I'm not, and just to be very transparent, I don't know what someone that builds a $6 million, $10 million house wants. I'd be like, do you want a wine fridge? I don't know that life. I grew up in Joshua Tree, single mom. Like, I just don't know what you would want. And I'm in Pasadena, so Altadena is like my family. These are my people.
Got it.
And they don't necessarily have the same amount of funding, and they need help like right now. Whereas, and this isn't obviously the case for everyone, but people in the Palisades have a little bit more liquidity or more options. And this is not like, they may be able to go to Orange County, or they may be able to go somewhere else and wait a little bit longer. People in Altadena are not having that option. So I think it's a best use of my mission, my time, my skill to help that area.
What are you doing there? Because I did see some stuff. I mean, it looked like you're building some rear houses right now, with maybe some others.
Yeah.
Like, what's the goal with what you're doing there?
Yeah. So what I realized is most people don't build a house. They go and they buy a house, and that's what it was. The floor plan was what it was. They didn't design it, they just bought it. So people don't even know where to start. They'll think, I need a contractor. And then they get a bid for what? We don't know what you're even gonna build. So that's also very discouraging for people to get a price per square foot on building we don't even know. So it's educating people that you start with plans, which we do. We help them with plans. We work with LA County, so we know how to get them approved fairly quickly. And then also to give them fair pricing, because we live here and work here, and our subcontractors work here. So I'm not saying everybody who's charging 500 to 700 square foot are greedy, terrible people. They may not even have the relationships with people to get fair pricing. So because we live here and we have the relationships with subcontractors in here, we're closer to $280 to $300 a square foot on what we're building. And it's not always the best metric, because you might have patios that cost less than the actual house. But that number, the 280, 300, is when I look at the bids I compete against, I could be at 800 and the next guy's $1.3 million almost every time.
Wow.
It's a huge difference.
Let's talk about, recently you were in the LA Times.
Yes.
Talk to us about that article. How did that come about? It's not every day that, I think it's neat. I love reading the Times. And so to be able to catch your article, I thought was pretty impressive. How did that happen? Obviously you're out there doing a lot of amazing things. So talk to us about that article.
Yeah, and also it's like how it comes about. I think there's like paid media and things like that. This is just being out there and giving information to the people who just want to know what's happening. And that's one thing I've always been, like when you're talking about X, it's like, just put the information out there. I'm not selling it. It's not like to buy my course or to even hire me. It's just like, there's enough out there for everybody. And so recently, I think this was my third LA Times article, but this one really meant a lot because it's our affordable housing project in South Los Angeles. But it's also was about a gentleman named Adam Miller, who he built an education platform and sold it to Amazon and created a substantial amount of wealth for himself. But his thing is he wants to give back. He wants to build affordable housing. Mm-hmm. And so this project we're doing in South LA is one of his first investments into this fund that he wants to do. And so it's a person who, a very impressive person, has done very well with himself, but like trusting in our team to lead his fund, because he needs to also have successful projects to raise more money. Even if you're a rich guy, that doesn't mean more people are going to give you money if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And so he invested in our project.
And this is his first project.
This is
this is his baby. He needs this one to be a success.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's a lot, but it is a great product and a story as well. A vacant building, affordable housing. There's a lot to it, and we're really happy to be a part of it. So that's what that recent story was.
That is great. Andrew, so you're a wealth of information. There is a lot that you know about when it comes to adding value, ADUs, highest and best use of a property. Are you utilizing AI for any of this stuff? Is AI helping you with some of these things, or I'm just curious?
It's helping me write emails.
Okay.
And I know that's like a simple thing, but I used to take, because some of my emails would be arguments with cities where I have to quote code sections, and it gave very detailed. And I never want to be a perfectionist, but I know sometimes you get one shot at this.
Yeah.
And so what used to take me 3 hours now takes me 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
And that's just from uploading the code sections that you can get from the government or whatever.
So you're grabbing the codes that they printed. You're uploading it to a ChatGPT or one of those, and you're saying, use this code to help me write this argument.
Correct.
How do you prompt it? What is the prompt?
Yeah,
more or less.
you know, and you have to somewhat know, like, are you using section 66323 or whatever section it is, and just saying, how does this email where they're saying no, where is the logic that that's not correct because this is what it says?
Yeah.
And so, yes, you have to somewhat know what you're talking about. And I think that's with all AI.
Right.
And saying, like, here's the email. I'm saying, here's kind of how I want to respond to it based on this. Put that together. But on the flip side, you could also use that to say, because these code sections say that, could I do this for this project? Right. Does it work here? And you could start using it in both ways. Like, the main thing for me was, like, we're limited on time, right? We're doing so much. So it took what would take me 3 hours and a lot of stress because I wanted to do it right and turn it into minutes. And I know, like, writing is, sometimes I feel like I'm losing the humanity of writing, but, like, that's, meet me in person, like, my emails are not, like, you're going to know me.
Right. I would say on X, AI is not writing his X.
No,
I think it's all Andrew. And so, Andrew, if someone wants to contact you or wants to work with you, who is it you're in a position to serve? Like, if we have tons of viewers, loyal followers. Like, if someone owns some property, like, who is it you want to hear from that you think you're in a position to best serve?
Yeah, I would say, multifamily homeowners that are exploring adding ADUs is probably the easiest and best to help them in a quickly manner, because to me at least, it's so simple of what you can do. When it comes to, like, a ground up development, like, people be like, I own a site, what can I do there? And there's a million things you can do there, and I don't know how much money you have, I don't know any of this. So that's a lot more difficult for someone to just, and it takes a lot of time too. And there's very, it's not just something I could spit out and say, you're going to do a 51 unit building here, and you're going to call Adam for the capital and this guy for the debt. And
it's not that easy.
It's not.
Okay. It's not. Okay.
So that part, but, like, people who are interested in maybe a joint venture, like, you own some land, you're like, what can I do there? But I want to give something too. Like, that goes a long way. The problem is there's, like, an expectation of just, like, tell me what I can do and go from there. And it's like, it's very hard to, like, do all these things and to be able to just give all that away, not even just for money, but, like, time wise.
Right.
So I would say that those two are probably, like, someone who would want to work with me.
And would you, we're going to have all Andrew's information down below, his website, his email address, phone number if he allows it. If not, what is the best way that you want to be contacted? Is email, a text, what's best for you?
Email and text is good. Also follow, X, like you said, Instagram as well, which is Andrew R. Slocum. But the reason why, like, I think that is out there is because, like, if you love cats, there's a lot of that. But I will post my emails of what I write to cities.
Okay.
And you can exactly see, like, pushback, because, like you said, you go to the city and they might say no, but one of our company ethos is no doesn't mean no.
Right. Yes. It means you got to show up a second time, and you'll get a second person who possibly, sometimes it's that simple. I get it. Andrew is having to research a lot more to be able to get to the yes point, but sometimes people get one no from one individual, and it's a large city. The next person would have said yes, or let me guide you differently. It's unfortunate that if you don't do a lot of work with the city, one no is heartbreaking, and you don't go back. And I think what I've seen through the years of working, especially with the city of Long Beach, is you got to just show up the next day.
And you can't expect them to know the rules. I thought you go to the city and they should know the rules. It's like, no. In fact, I'm the one who has to teach many cities the rules because there's so many being shoved down their throat. And I sometimes feel bad. There's not an education component for them. So yes, you maybe get a no, but you could maybe look at some of the ADU rules or ED1 rules and say, what about this? And they go, oh yeah, you could do this. Yeah. Because there's so many options of what you can do. Someone's not just, for whatever reason, the guy on the other side isn't gonna be like, okay, here's how you make the most money. That's just not the way they think or they work.
it's not their job to know the highest and best use. And it's not their job to make you money. It's not their job.
It's not, no.
In fact, their job is easiest if they say no and you go away.
Easiest, yeah.
That's the easiest way, because then it's less headache. They don't have to review and argue with you, all kinds of stuff. But it is their job to listen to you, to look at your ideas, to look at your plans, to figure out how much housing can I get here? Yeah. Because every city is has a problem right now at the state level that they need to create more housing. And so with that, Andrew, I'm going to give you the final say. Let us know if there's anything else you want to cover.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of this speaking to people is to activate people to be advocates.
Okay.
Because we use a lot of these rules, the ADU laws, and we love it and we make money off of it. But we also have to participate in those conversations to make it better for each year, talk about problems, and show up. Show up at city council meetings and support housing projects when they're talking about, are we going to support SB 9 or we're going to do this? I know it's not fun, it's not sexy, you sit there for a little bit, but showing up to whatever it is that you are interested in a pro housing or a pro operator, rent control rules, all of these things, they need to hear from both sides. Because the people who are sometimes speaking about it don't necessarily live in this world. We do. Like, as an operator, you are the best person to talk about it because you're living it. Mm-hmm. But if you don't show up, the city council member who is writing the ordinance or approving it, or the state legislator, they don't do this. They need to hear from you. And you have a voice, and it's very important. And I learned when you show up and I see a bill change because I went and did it, and I'm no one special. Everybody can do the same thing, that it's impactful and it helps. So I think, finding what your passion is and being involved in an advocacy way, because it's going to improve your business, or if you do nothing, it's really going to hurt your business.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming in, for all that you're doing. Folks, if you enjoyed this interview, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Send us your messages below. I want to know what you guys thought of Andrew. We'll have him back because every year laws are going to be changing, and we want to hear, how are people creating wealth? How are we able to create more housing and make Southern California a place where people want to be able to live and afford at the end of the day? So that's all for now. Until next time.